Ken Oforiata update and I go so airdropping or gossip politics TV. So and obenya any latest update on Ken Oforiata, ni release and ni processor on the name na abusuya and live on a year Ghana tonight. TV3 credit goes to Alfred Okansi on a private legal practitioner and sama or de etuja life or say Ken Oforiata na ya releasing no from prison no abusuya ensem bebre na efefa ho na based on extradition request and as a process no Ken Oforiata ya so arrest no yes and 28 charges na OSP de abono as isi ano Ken Oforiata ne Re-Ařréstéd no abusuya based on extradition process no ne Re-Ařréstéd no asanso akoso a enye asem keto akra nti no abusuya yensam ombre mom yenko na yenko tie private legal practitioner no ne nsem a odi tudwa on Ken Oforiata ne extradition process on ne Re-Ařréstéd say asanso Re-Ařréstéd no or say ASAS and so Re-Ařréstéd based on a extradition process. Ebusuya into the moment corner, young konkuti and sama a course. So unsubscribe ya subscribe and hit on the notification bell so never any updates be ever dropping on so on sa able to me akabi a gossip politics TV. So there is much interesting moment ahead. Ebusuya hit on the notification bell no medamase.
Be arrested. So he could actually be facing two separate arrests. It could be concurrent, so could it also be what's it called? Consequent, subsequent. And so for instance, now that he has been admitted to bail in the immigration issue, he could still be arrested on the basis of the extradition processes that has already commenced. And so it is not, he's not out of the woods yet, not at all, nowhere close. He could still be arrested on the basis of the extradition processes.
April 7, 2026, which was yesterday, a press release from his legal representatives, Menka Premo Osebonsu, Bruce, Catling Partners, confirmed that Ken Oforiata has since returned home and is currently with his family. According to the statement, Ken Oforiata remains committed to pursuing due process in defending his rights as guaranteed under the Constitution and the laws of the United States. The family also expressed gratitude to God and to all individuals who offered prayers and support during the period of his detention. We're going to put this letter from his lawyers on the screen right now. We have a copy of it. It clearly details what the direction and also the thinking of his lawyers are after yesterday's court order. This is it. As you see there, he is home with his family. It continues that he remains fully committed to use due process in defense of his rights as guaranteed under the Constitution and laws of the United States. He and his family remain thankful to God and also to all those who have offered prayers and support during this period. Justice Kusi Menka Premo Esquire, solicitor for Ken Oforiata, signed this statement, which we have a copy of, and was released earlier today. Now, this matter is coming at a time. We checked the ICE website. What you see there right now is the ICE website. After we received this statement from his lawyers, with this, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that's the ICE website, indeed does have the confirmation of Ken Oforiata not being in ICE detention, because his information is no more on this website. It's been taken off as per the administrative response to the court order. So if you go on the ICE website now, you type Ken Oforiata, hitherto, when you type his name, his details will pop up and his detention status would also show. But as of today, when we checked, this is what we found out. So indeed, confirming what his lawyers have put out earlier today. And his legal team And one of his lawyers, lawyer Frank Davis, has also been speaking on this release, adding that Ken Ofori-Atta has not been charged, formally charged as yet. And this with respect to the charges of some of the issues that he is facing in Ghana. So there are two different matters. The matter relating to the extradition and then also the immigration matters that he is facing. So these are the two issues. But this is what lawyer Frank Davis said regarding whether or not Ken Ofori-Atta has been charged on the matters that the special prosecutor brought against him. He is facing 28 counts of various issues in the specific case of the SML, which we'll get to shortly. But if you follow the trajectory of Ken Ofori-Atta's case right from at least last year, January 2025, when the special prosecutor started giving us updates of what has been done and what is being done so far, is come under a lot of criticism for not moving at the time when Ken Ofori-Atta was still in Ghana. Martin Pebo has been on that he waited till Ken Ofori-Atta left the jurisdiction before doing all of this. All these could have been done before leaving. Well, he invited Ken Ofori-Atta for questioning January 2025. As at the time, Ken Ofori-Atta was not in Ghana. His lawyers indicated that he was in the United States for medical treatment. He had notified the chief of staff then, at the time, that this is what he was going to do. Fast forward to February 2025. There was, based on the correspondence between Ken Ofori-Atta's lawyers and the special prosecutor, he came out to indicate that he has declared Ken Ofori-Atta a wanted man and a fugitive from justice. If you recall, this generated quite some conversation as to why at that particular time and his status as going for medical attention. But then the special prosecutor stood on his grounds and eventually we had that Interpol red notice that was issued. As you do know, that red notice on the Interpol website was challenged by Ken Ofori-Atta's lawyers on the matters of legality. Interpol began the review sometime in November 2025. And as we got notice earlier this year, that Interpol red notice had also been pulled out. The special prosecutor explained why that was the case, that he was no more on that Interpol red list. Now, in December 2025, according to the records from the Attorney General, you recall that I sat with the Deputy Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Dr. Justice Edem Sremsai. He indicated that in December, Ghana filed formal extradition requests from the United States. And this is one of the issues also under consideration as we speak. So Ken Ofori-Atta was arrested not because of this extradition request, but his own immigration issues that he was faced with. And as at the time that he was arrested by ICE, he was living, according to the information, illegally in the United States. Well, when this extradition request also played out, questions were asked as to how that was also going to feed into the court hearing regarding this immigration matter. If you recall, when he appeared before the court on this matter of the immigration, the judge had requested the specific details of the extradition request. Now, this detention pending the extradition process is what we have seen now. He has been released, we understand, on bail. We do not know the full details of his bail conditions, so we cannot go into it. That's one of the questions that we are knocking on the doors of his lawyers to give us some details on what the next phase will be and the way forward. So this is where we are with Ken Ofori-Atta as of yesterday being released from the ICE custody by court order. Now, questions were asked as to whether Ken Ofori-Atta has been formally charged based beyond what we are told in the public by the special prosecutor. This is his lawyer giving us details that he has not been formally notified of any charge. Take a look.
He's been released from ICE custody and detention facility, and he's now with his family, rejoined with his family and his home. Now, what's the consideration? I think we were all witnesses to what happened at the ICE hearing. When the bond application was posted, lawyers from the Department of Justice, the Federal Republic, the Department of Justice, put in a caveat that they would oppose the bond application because there was the extradition request pending in respect of Ofori-Atta. The judge had no option than to adjourn the proceedings for the Department of State Law, the Department of Justice lawyers to file the extradition request before the judge. The matter was adjourned to the 19th of February for that exercise to be undertaken. On the 18th of February, the Department of Justice lawyers filed just a one-liner without any detail of whatever proceedings was against Ofori. The judge had no option than to adjourn the matter 10 days. We were supposed to have been back to the ICE hearing on the 27th of April. Thankfully, today, in consonance with due process and the rule of law, Kenneth Ofori has been released and is rejoined with the public. The proceedings in the ICE court stand separate and distinct from the extradition request. The ICE matter is a purely administrative immigration matter. He had applied for an adjustment of his immigration status. So ICE proceedings or hearings have nothing in common with the extradition request. The extradition request, so far as I can understand, thus far, is supposed to be pending.
Well, let's stay a bit further on this. Justice Abdullah is private legal practitioner, also a lecturer at the UPSC Law Faculty. Justice Abdullah, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure being here.
Hello, Council.
Yeah, Alfred.
Perfect. Thank you.
I can hear you.
Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. You've been hearing or listening to Frank Davis, who's lawyer for Ken Ofori upon Ken Ofori's release from the ICE detention yesterday after the court order. You know, as you do know, his lawyers had applied for this. We don't know the full details of the bail conditions as yet, but this is the latest development regarding Ken Ofori. How does all of this strike you?
Alfred, I wasn't expecting this news today. I least expected this to happen, but when due process is followed and the outcome is negative, it does not in itself determine the quality and substance of the law. I think we should all understand that the law is not set to simply and continuously secure convictions of people or incarcerate people. The law is available to ensure that justice prevails at all times. And so if in the opinion of the court, this is something worth doing, I do not think that it doesn't affect the merit of the case Ghana is seeking before the United States authorities in any way. So in view of that, I think that we should still have our hopes high that eventually Ken Ofori will be brought back to Ghana to face justice. Let's all remember that what we are seeking is not necessarily to persecute Ken Ofori should he be extradited to Ghana. And so if that is the case, then as distasteful as this may be to the generality of the Ghanaian, and particularly for anti-corruption watchers, this does not in any way, it should not dampen our spirit. It should not affect the morale in the Ghanaian camp. It may not be as sweet as we expected, but it is part of the rule of law, the principles of rule of law. It is part of how justice is supposed to run. And so we should accept it in good faith and still fight for the extradition. That is our ultimate goal anyway.
I see, but just to put it on record, there are two issues at play here. There's the immigration issue which ICE took him in for, which
100%.
is separate from the extradition request and matters related
correct.
to what he's facing here. But so what we're hearing now regarding his release on bail is with regards to the immigration issues, right?
100%.
So I just wanted us to put that in perspective as well.
And that is correct. That is correct. So that's why I said that it doesn't affect the fight for his extradition in any way. It does not at all. It doesn't tell on the merit of the extradition. This is purely unrelated. And so we should still have our hopes high, as I indicated earlier, because the two are completely separate and independent of each other. And indeed, the two could be a basis for his arrest and detention.
But if you look at the timelines, Kenneth Atta was taken in by ICE on the 7th of January. And yesterday, the 7th of April, he was released. So that's about 3 months of being in the coolest of ICE.
That is correct.
For the
That is correct. And so, as I indicated, if you remember, 3 months ago when we were on your program on Saturday, I indicated that when the extradition process is invoked, he could be arrested. So he could actually be facing two separate arrests. It could be concurrent, so could it also be subsequent. And so for instance, now that he has been admitted to bail in the immigration issue, he could still be arrested on the basis of the extradition processes that has already commenced. And so it is not, he's not out of the woods yet, not at all, nowhere close. He could still be arrested on the basis of the extradition processes.
And this brings me to the next matter, which his lawyers touched on, that he has not been formally notified as yet of the 28 charges against him by the special prosecutor.
I am surprised why the charges are still not before him. But of course, once he's not within the jurisdiction, it is normal that charging him, typically charging him would require his physical presence. He needs to come and sign the charge sheet and all of that. I do not know if the OSP has a special procedure in charging a person in absentia and then proceeding with the prosecution. I don't know whether they have any particular procedure in doing that. However, if you want to charge a person, ordinarily the person has to be physically before you. You have to read out the charges to the person. The person would have to understand the charges against him, and then he has to sign the charge sheet. In fact, he doesn't need to sign the charge sheet anyway. The charge sheet will be signed by the prosecutor. And once his rights are read to him, he would sign against his right that indeed they were read out to him and all of that. And so he's formally aware that he has been charged. And the docket is built on the basis of that and sent to court. So in his absence, I do not know how they seek to follow the same procedure in charging him and then possibly trying him in absentia. I have heard some people advocating that they could do all these online, where the charges could be read out to him, and then he would have to nod or say verbally whether he understands the charges and all of that, whilst his lawyers are also on the other side. So more or less like a conference, whether video or otherwise, and all these done. It is a possibility. It's a means of we can explore those options, as in the government or the prosecutorial team can explore these options. They are not entirely a novelty, but it is not the practice that I have seen so far, which is the reason I believe the OSP has not explored it yet, because this is not a standards. These are not the standards and practices that we operate with currently. So I believe they may be the basis for the reason he has not been formally charged yet, and that is what they are also exploiting. Because he has not been formally charged and all of that, and everything has been, they are playing the victim card. At this point, he's entitled to exploit the weaknesses in our system. But I'm sure we eventually get to the bottom of these whole matters. And then if he's indeed found guilty, I'm sure he'll face the full rigors of the law. If he's found innocent, that is the reason for the rule of law, rigorous application within the.
Okay, abusia we ne ensema ekọ so e political highway so kind of Re-Ařřéstéd ena yede ne ho nsem ebrem a enye asem keto akra intino based on extradition and proceedings and as a process no kind of Re-Ařřéstéd asanso akole for say yen re-arrest no with immediate effect. But I say some of Japan kokoti sa ensem we edema aha gossip politics TV so but I say